Hi, I'm your host, Reena Suri, and welcome to Thriving Changes, a place where we share stories from brave and courageous people who have navigated challenges, crisis, or a change in their personal or professional life and gave it a new meaning. It's a platform where leaders open up about their fears, vulnerabilities, and the journey that led them to triumph. Our hope is to inspire and motivate others to take their first step towards thriving changes. Ray Yenkana is an accomplished real estate professional with over 3 decades of experience in residential and commercial real estate. He has been recognized for consistent top tier sales performance and exceptional leadership abilities. Ray is dedicated to mentoring, training, and contributing to community development. He is an expert in negotiations, conflict resolutions, marketing, and client relations with a commitment to delivering results. In today's podcast, Ray shares with us his entrepreneurial journey. He's gone through a set of challenges in his own business and shares with us how he navigated those challenges and rebuilt his business. It's a great conversation of exceptional leadership and resilience. Enjoy. Hey, Ray. Good morning. How are you? I know that
Um,
you're under the weather.
all things considering, I'm good, but I'm actually in the midst of a battle, physical battle,
Yeah.
and it doesn't affect the way I feel, but I have pain in a number of places, and you can see the effects of what I'm fighting around my eyes.
Right. Yeah. So,
So,
what
make a
is it?
long story short, I always tell people now, I'm not a doctor, but you have suspicions of your own body, right?
Hmm.
I had a root canal done in September last year. Right after that root canal, I started to have sores. First in my mouth, then on my different parts of my body. And make a long story short, I went back to my dentist. He sent me to a specialist. And after going to many specialists all through the fall of 2024, I kept going downhill because these sores kept growing. It got to the point at the beginning of January, I could hardly eat. My mouth was so full of sores, I could hardly eat. I've lost 20 some pounds. And a lot of them say it's something that's very rare in North America. It's called Pemphigus vulgaris. And in some parts of the world, they call it Beckett's. Anyway, I'm taking some treatments, both drug wise as well as natural wise, and I'm making progress. And many of my body parts that had lots of sores are progressively getting less and less. I can even speak better. I couldn't even speak like this several weeks ago
Hmm.
because my tongue was messed up, my mouth was messed up.
Hmm.
It's still messed up, so it's affected everything. And so what you see on my face is the scars of what's left of the sores around my eyelids.
Hmm.
My eyes are fine. I can see perfectly. But my eyelids have been afflicted and I have some creams and stuff. So I'm in the midst of a battle and I didn't expect to be like this, but here it is. It is what it is. I'll get over it, I'm sure.
I'm sorry to hear that you've been going through this for so many months. But
Appreciate it, but it is what it is. It is what it is. You don't get to pick your battles in life sometimes. They just come up on you, right?
yeah, no, but thank you for showing up. And I really appreciate it with everything that's going on. And I'm so proud of the fact that you're ready to show up on camera despite everything that's going on. So, not many people would have the courage to do that.
Well, here's the thing. I've been a student of personal development pretty much my whole life since I was a teenager. And so I know that you are who you are, regardless of how you look.
Exactly.
You
That,
are who you are.
yeah.
So I am who I am. I realize how I look affects how people see me, but it doesn't affect how I see myself.
No. And it doesn't affect me either because it's
See?
beyond your looks. There is the person that I'm speaking with, and that's
Yeah,
coming from within your
yeah.
mind, your intellect, your character that comes through. So it's not just the physical appearance. That's, I think, very superficial, but you still look great despite that. And it's that attitude that's reflecting. So thank you. I'm so proud of you.
Well, I've worked on a formula for years. You heard me talk about it the other day, and the formula is Once you identify what your definite major purpose in life is, you must surround yourself with a positive mental attitude. Step number two. Because without a positive mental attitude, you're never going to get your work activities done, which if you don't do your work and if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're not going to get the results you want to get in your life. Most people in life want results.
Yeah.
They just want to do the work that makes the results happen.
It is what it is. We'll talk more about that because I'm sure it will show up in everything that we're going to talk about today, this very principle that you're talking about, because I know your story and I know that how it has shown up in your own personal journey and you walk the talk. So I really want my listeners to really get deep into that. And so tell us a little bit about yourself. I always invite my guests to tell their story. I really won't do that justice to their introduction and what they have been through. Tell
Well,
us.
I'll make it as brief as I can, but I was born on a little island called Aruba. My birth certificate is in Dutch. My parents were working there, and so it's a Dutch island. But my parents moved 2 years after I was born. They moved back to where they grew up in a country called Guyana, and their family was there. So for family reasons, they moved back. They were there well, I was there till I was about just before my 12th birthday. And just before my 12th birthday, my mom decided that my English wasn't good enough because even though it was a country that was a part of the British Commonwealth, when you're that far away from the mother country, there's dialects to develop, and the country was inhabited by people from many different backgrounds: Indians, Africans, Spanish, Portuguese, different people, English. And so my mom said, Ray, you speak, and they speak a dialect, like a local dialect. So I spoke that all the time. And when I came to the house, my mom was upset. Ray, I want you to speak proper English, which I could to some degree, but not 100%. But I studied in English, and my mom decided, you know what, I'm taking you to London. So she packed me up before my 12th. I had my 12th birthday in London, England. Enrolled me in an English grammar school, and I was there for 2 years. She brought me home for a holiday, so she told me. In fact, she brought me home to immigrate to a different continent, different country. I didn't know that. So when I went home, I'm like a little Englishman, speaking with an English accent. I still carry it with me. Once you've been to school in London, you've been to a grammar school, you learn how to speak like a grammar school boy. So I have a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with the English accent when I meet people from the old country because I can turn it on. Anyhow, I was there for about a year going to school, while my parents were figuring out their immigration issues. And then finally, it didn't quite work out the way they thought. They thought they were going to New York, the States. Ended up, we came to Montreal, Canada. So I finished high school in Montreal, went to college for a bit. And then I realized in college, you know what? I didn't have it articulated properly, but in my head, I knew I was not good. I was not destined to be an academic. I could do academic stuff. I could pass the courses. It's not like I couldn't do it, but there was no love for it. And so somewhere in my early 20s, I decided, you know what? I have to follow the path of, I've got to create something. And I didn't realize the word was entrepreneur. I didn't know. But by the time I was 26 years old, I'd already moved from Quebec to British Columbia. And I was living in northern British Columbia, and I started a construction company. I started building houses, and I took to that because it was a business, and I grew up in a business family. My grandfather back in Guyana had a huge business, and make a long story short, it was like, made sense to me. So I started into business, building houses, construction, which eventually led me into the mid 80s to becoming a real estate person, a real estate licensee. My first stint at it was for a couple of years. I ran a real estate property management company and eventually got my various licenses, and then I started selling, and I've never stopped. And ended up owning a brokerage in 1991, a sales brokerage, and that's transitioned over the years to where I moved from that northern location 20 years ago in 2000 down to the lower mainland, just in the Fraser Valley, just outside of Greater Vancouver. I'm in the Greater Vancouver area, and I have a business partner. I think we own 5 brokerages, 4 or 5, yeah, 5 brokerages. We own 5 brokerages. We're connected to Royal Page in Canada. We have about 160 agents, and the hats that I wear today are, I always sell some commercial investment businesses for clients of mine. That's a small part of what I do. In my earlier life in real estate, I did lots of transactions, residential, commercial, and all that kind of stuff. But now I just do a few for key people. And basically, what I do is I coach, mentor, and help recruit agents into the brokerage and help them build their business. There's my short story.
All right. Yeah, quite an amazing journey. You've gone through several transitions and seem to have come through with flying colors. And as you were mentioning, I remember that when you mentioned your business, that where it had reached having five brokerages. And then I believe you went through your share of challenges with your business. And I know that it took a hit where you went through a split. So
So about 2 years ago,
yeah,
2.5 years ago, we had 4 franchises, and we were with an international company, but it's based in the US. I won't say their name, it'll be obvious. It's one of the largest companies in the world in real estate, but they're based in and headquartered in Denver, Colorado. And they became a public company maybe 10 years ago. I don't know, something like that. They were private, then they became public. And on their journey, their lawyers are producing franchise agreements for franchisees like me in a different country. And when we had to renew our franchises, the agreements went from 20, 30-page documents to like huge, 3, 4, 5 times the size. Well, in business, when you get a big, huge legal document, somebody wants you to sign it, you send it to your lawyer. And my lawyer said to me, he says, Ray, no Canadian lawyer would tell any franchisee of this company to sign. There's things that need to be changed. To make a long story short, we tried to talk to them. They wouldn't change. And we tried to also talk to them and remind them of the fact that they had been making so many promises that weren't being kept. And we're always selling the brand to our agents. And it's probably the most expensive brand in the marketplace. So make a long story short, we couldn't agree. And they said, Ray, if you don't sign, we need you to take your signs down and we're going to defranchise you. And so that's what happened. So we started looking around and we ended up being fortunate to find Royal LePage. We interviewed all kinds of companies. We interviewed with all the major real estate companies, but we found the best fit was with Royal LePage because Royal LePage is the only national real estate company in Canada. All the rest of them are regional. None of them are national that are Canadian. There's some national companies that are American, but there's no Canadian companies national coast to coast. So it was a fit for us. And today, when we're having all this stuff in the media about being buy Canadian and everything else, it's working in our favor. It's working in our favor because our competitors are all Americans or with an American company. So that's where we're at today, and we're rebuilding. Actually, we're having a great time, lots of fun. We just actually added a small office to our operation. I think it was about 23 agents, and then a couple other people from other offices came. So we grew in one location by about 23 agents, which was very good. And a year and a half ago, we added another location with another office that we amalgamated with about 45 agents. So when we made the switch, when you do something like that, many of the people in your organization, they're actually thinking that they are where they are because of the branding, not necessarily because of the operation and how it's run and the people who've helped them. It is what it is. That's human nature, right? So we ended up losing about a third of our people, which was tough because we maintained all of our overhead as if nothing happened.
wow.
So imagine a company loses a third of their income, maintains their back office, their overhead. Obviously, they're not doing it based on income. They're doing it based on some savings and with some vision that if we do what we do and if we're good at what we do, we'll get back to where we were, which we have now.
Yeah, congratulations.
At the end of the day, all entrepreneurs have to face down days. Everything in business isn't always up. You have to be able to weather the storm. You have to never spend all the money. Most people in business, there's certain basic things you have to know. You can't spend all the money when you have to put it away because if there's a rainy day or there's a battle to be fought, you need finances. You got to be able to have resources. So we teach business planning to our agents. We teach them how to plan for their own lives so that their business is up and down. See, we work with entrepreneurs. We do have a staff of about maybe 12 or 14 people, and they're on a salary or they're on some kind of an income. But everybody else, the 160 agents that we have, they live by the skin of their teeth. They live by their wits. They live by their planning. They live by their activities. They live by pure entrepreneurial grit. And when you have that kind of DNA in you, and you either do or you don't. So not everybody's cut out for it. but then you want to associate with people who are like that. So then when there's a battle, we sometimes go through the battle together. When there's a victory, we go through the victory together. But is it the path we want? Yes. There's a guy that has a poem that says, do I want to be the guy in the stand, watching the guys on the field, watching the tears and watching the victories and watching the pain? Or do I want to be on the field? Some people want to be in the stand, and some of us want to be on the field. Is it bloody on the field? Yeah, sometimes it's bloody. But guess what? It might be bloody on the outside, but in our hearts, we feel satisfied because we're doing what we're called to do. Like my grandfather was a very successful businessman, and there's no way he would have ever worked for somebody else and just done his 9 to 5 and taken his paycheck and went home. He had a bigger dream. He had a dream for his family and for what he wanted to accomplish. Like when I was a little boy, my mom worked for the business, and after school, I used to get picked up from school by one of the drivers and taken to the store to be with my mom. And I would go all over the store and visit my uncles and my dad and my granddad and see what they were doing. And somehow or other, it must have rubbed off on me. I don't know.
We pick up from our environment. One is intentional learning, and some things we just pick up by the sense of it. We see it happening and we see others
Exactly.
modeling it, and we just em- embody that in us. So, yeah, that was one of my questions. In fact, I have it written down that there must have been days which have been more challenging than the others. So, every conversation that I've had with you, you've always come across as somebody who has this very positive attitude. You always talk positively. You always brush aside anything which is negative. It's not that you don't address what was negative or what was not working for you, but you're very quick to dismiss it. You don't hang in there for too long, and you flip the conversation to a positive. Is that something that you developed over the years, or it's inherent in you? Or how do you keep up your spirits?
I'd have to say that some of that is developed for sure, but I understand that everybody has a certain wiring. So my wiring is outgoing, and my wiring is both task oriented and people oriented. So some of it is part of my personality DNA, but some of it is learned because I knew that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So knowing that, I have intentionally over the years, I want to spend time with people who are better than me. I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I want to be in the room with people smarter than me, because if I am, I can suck like a sponge what they know that I don't know. If I know there's somebody that knows stuff I don't know, I want to know it. I want to learn it because I want to be better. So if you consistently do something like that, it compounds. Everything in life compounds. If you put a little bit of money in a savings account, it'll compound. You put a little bit of money into an investment, it'll compound. Well, the biggest investment you have in that you can invest in is yourself. I like to ask people a question. I say to people since I've been in Canada, I said, do you know what the greatest natural resource of Canada is? And people will start telling me about the oil and the gold and the magnesium and all the different things. And there's some truth to that. But the greatest natural resource in any country is the people. So if you invest in the people work on you. After a while, it becomes second nature, because negative people don't make progress. They digress. They get depressed. So I try to be with positive people who are believing. And I like to think that my associates they're believers. I'm a believer. I'm a possibility thinking person. I like to think in terms of, actually, I give my mom the credit. Since I was a kid, my mom used to say this to me. She used to repeat this to me until she drove it deep into my psyche. My mom always told me, she says, Ray, if it's in the realm of human possibility, you can do it. So by the time I went from a teenager to my early 20s, I had no doubts that if it was in the realm of human possibility, I could do it. The only question is, what do I want to do? Now, my mom wanted me to be a doctor. I can't stand blood. I can't stand putting my hand in wounds or body parts. It just turns me off. So I'm not going to be a doctor. Could I be a doctor? Maybe. I think I got enough. I think I'm blessed enough that I had enough, whatever it would take in terms of academic savvy. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I think if I studied hard, I could pass the courses. I could become a doctor. But now I have to work for the hospital. I have to work for the system. I have to do what they tell me. And I'm not entrepreneurial. And that's what I like to be.
Yeah. When we were talking about the split and how you're building your company back up again, what were some of your learnings through that particular experience?
So here's the thing, when you're going through a struggle, whatever it is in your life and your business, you have to identify what are your top priority activities that you need to do to deal with the situation. If you're on a ship and it's sinking, you better quickly figure out what are your top 2 or 3 priorities. You can't have 10. You got to have 2 or 3, or you're going to go down. So right away, when we made the transition, we lost a bunch of people. We didn't lose them all instantly, but we lost a lot instantly, and then we began to lose some over the next number of months. Well, I changed my strategy up, and my strategy was no longer to maintain and have a little bit of growth, but my strategy now is to have a lot of growth. I got to grow back as quickly as I can. So change my strategy, change my focus, change my activities, change my marketing, find bigger groups of people to join rather than one-offs. Do I still do my one-offs? Of course. Do I still meet with single agents that want to come join us and we can help them grow their business? Yeah, because you see, we do have a unique selling proposition we have in our brokerage is that we are one of the few brokers that actually are concerned. We don't want mediocre agents. We want agents that are making money, growing, and so everybody. But I think people in the marketplace know that we're about that. And many agents have started and become successful working with us, and some are still with us and some moved on to other places. That's the nature of our business. It's just the way it is. So when you're in a situation like us, we have to refocus, rethink, reprioritize. I have a business partner. He's younger than me, smarter, younger, owns more shares. He owns 1% more than me. 2. He's 51, I'm 49. He's the boss. So between him and I and the management team, we focused on what we had to focus on. And in a year and a half, we've added about 70 people on our mergers. And then I don't know how many we've added one-offs, but we also have attrition. Everybody has attrition. So more or less, we're back to where we were with the attrition. But now we're poised in 2025. We're poised to really grow. And we have a track record in our brokerage where when the market slows, we grow. Because when the market slows and people aren't making deals, they want to find a place where the people that are going to help them survive. Because most of them like to think they're entrepreneurs, but they haven't set it up properly. And we can help them set it up. If you think of it as a business, we're just like a business with a bunch of independent contractors.
Yeah.
Except many of them don't think of themselves as independent contractors. They think of themselves as employees. Most people don't understand the difference between trading time for money or trading value for money. When they come to us, all people that work at a job trade time for money. When you come to work in our environment, we have to show that we have to trade value. We have to find customers, provide value, and we trade value for money.
Oh, that's so brilliant. It takes it to another level altogether when you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
I've been reading your bio and in our conversations, in our previous conversations, that you have a passion for mentoring and training, especially now with all your experience. You have over 3 decades of experience in this industry. And so how do you play that out in your life?
Well, I think because of a mutual friend of ours that we met, and the mutual friend of ours was somebody that I've known in my coaching journey with the John Maxwell team. I became a certified coach back in 2012 with the John Maxwell team. But I had always been coaching and training prior to that. It's just that I came to the point where I realized I needed to up my game. I needed to have more tools, and they provided a bunch of things at the time. The offering today is slightly different than what it was when I was there. I'm glad I got in on the original offering because during that time I met some high-level people like Christian Simpson and Paul Martinelli, and they helped me develop my coaching abilities, skills. And as a result, today, when you coach people, it gives you an unbelievable feeling of satisfaction to see them improve. So it's not just about the fee. There is a fee. They pay for it. And of course, all of us like to earn fees and commissions and that type of thing, for sure. However, when you see people's lives transform because you were able to help them over a hurdle, that's something that is so satisfying that it pays you dividends long after the fee has been spent on something else. And now you have a connection with those people. When I need to bounce something off of somebody, when I need to get feedback on something, I have so many people I can call, and some of them were clients of mine, but they've been so transformed. They're more like friends and colleagues, and some of them have become that. And sometimes we worked on other things together because we are so much more like-minded today than when we met as a coach client.
Yeah, relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a process, and I think in my coaching experience, I feel that it's a transformative experience for the coach as well. It's not just for your client, it's a two-way street. I feel that with every coaching session, I've also evolved in the way I reflect when I reflect back and see it's a journey that I'm also taking.
Well, what happens in coaching is a coach is not telling.
Yeah.
A coach is not showing. There's parts of that coaching that could be a little bit of showing, it could be a little bit of telling, could be a little bit of training, but real coaching is learning to ask the questions that helps the person to discover. If you tell people,
That's
they
not,
don't discover.
yeah, and that's not coaching. That
Yeah.
word I think has been so misused. Coaching is asking questions.
A true coach doesn't come with an agenda. A true coach comes with questions, and a true coach is asking himself all the time, how do I ask the best question? I had a client one time, a few years ago, and within the first couple of meetings, I knew where the problem was, but he didn't know. And if I told him, I wouldn't help him. It took me several sessions of questioning and questioning until one day he said, I know where the problem is. Now, as a coach, I knew this weeks ahead, but if I tell him, I don't help him. Because true learning is like a self discovery. It's the same as the people I coach in their businesses. So I do coach business people outside of the brokerage. I coach other companies, people. And when I do, I'm never going to get the success I get if I tell them what I know after the first initial meetings. I now have to figure out how to ask them the kind of questions so that they can discover what it is among themselves in their own skill set, in the way they're doing it, until there's an aha moment. When there's an aha moment, the change will actually be permanent.
So, are you coaching your own teams, or do you also take up outside? Do
So
you
I
work with?
coach, first of all, I coach individual independent contractors within our brokerage. I don't do a lot of coaching for my overall team, but maybe a little bit, like my management team, maybe a little, not much, because we're pretty much very self-aware, and I have some very high quality people, very high quality. But besides my independent contractor realtors that I coach and help them to discover how to build their business bigger than what they have got it, because I help them discover the obstacles and how to get over it. I do coach people that are not having to do with real estate, nothing to do with our business. And that's more of a word of mouth referral. But I belong to a very powerful networking group. And within that group, sometimes they'll hear me talking and some of them will say, Ray, can you do some stuff for us?
Yeah. So, if somebody is interested in learning more about what you do and how you can help support them in their journey, how can they reach you?
Well, you've got all my information you can publish. And
Yeah.
not everybody that reaches out will actually be a situation where we will actually do business. So what happens is typically in coaching is we have one or two discovery meetings. And during that meeting, the client will determine, it's never me that determines, a little bit. A little have to determine, do I want to work with this client? But the biggest thing is they have to determine they want to work with me. Because maybe I'm too brutally honest.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask them some questions in the discovery that's going to shock them, because I'm not necessarily going to try to sell, I'm not trying to sell them on using me. So I'm not trying to make a pitch. I'm not telling them all the benefits. I'm saying, look, if we work together, would you be willing to address this? Would you be willing to address that? Would you be willing to confront things that you maybe never confronted before? And some people are going to say no. So, in order to enter into a coaching relationship, this can be significant and costly. Now, this is going to be costly because I never coach anybody that doesn't pay up front. And the reason I don't, there's very few people on the planet who will pay for what's and stay with a program that's going to help them on a monthly payment. People are tied to their money, which I understand. And when they've made the investment in themselves, they'll be ready to do the work, do the discipline. And if they don't want to do that, then it's not a win. It has to be a win-win,
True.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And in business and in the real estate aspect, what kind of people can reach out to you if they're so are you only Canadian residents or are you
No, when we talk about business coaching, business isn't that much different than a lot of other countries. So my biggest limitation is my number one language is English. So that'd be my biggest limitation because I get by like a tourist in other languages, but I wouldn't be able to coach somebody in another language
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So
No, I think what I meant to ask was that when it comes to your real estate business, what kind of people can approach you for
well,
business?
anybody that's actually in real estate sales or the brokerage side of real estate that's trying to grow their business, either the brokerage or their sales business, they can approach me.
Okay.
They don't have to be with my company.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I just wanted my listeners to be clear that
Yeah,
okay,
they don't have to be in my company. They don't have to be in my country. They don't have to be in my province. They could be anywhere.
anywhere, and you can still work and
100%.
uh,
100%. Because the problems we're going to deal with and the issues they're going to have are human.
yeah, and they're universal, whichever country.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. So, in my limited understanding of real estate, I think what I identified as two crucial skills, I think would be client relations, like how to maintain, converse, build a long lasting, long term relationship with them, and probably negotiations, how to negotiate. And not all of us are inherently great at these skills. So, what are some ways that we can build these muscles?
So, in any area of life where you realize I need to improve, find out who the best speakers are on the subject and listen to them. Who are the best? Who are the best in these areas? And read their books, and at least begin to expose yourself to ideas that you're probably not even exposed to, and you're not even trying. That's step number one. Years ago, I used to listen to Zig Ziglar. He's dead and gone, but I still listen to him. But Zig used to say, turn drive time into learn time. You can't be driving and not learning. You got to have a daily reading program where you're reading every day. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind because there's just so much good information that's going to help you develop as an individual and grow your business. So you need to be reading, you need to be listening. And the number one thing is invest in yourself. If there's some good programs happening around the country, around the world, I paid thousands of dollars, thousands and thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars to improve myself. I've been in programs that were 10 grand, 20 grand. I've been in programs that cost lots of money. But guess what am I going to do with the money? If I had another 20 grand, is that going to help me eat better? But if I have another 20,000 or $10,000 worth of skill development, then I become a more productive person for my family.
That's a great way to look at it. You mentioned about the certification course that you've recently taken around estate planning. So, can you talk a little bit more about that?
I can. So recently I took a course. It's called a Canadian Executor Certification course. So it is specifically tailored to our country. Some of it would be similar in other countries like the United States, England, Australia, New Zealand. Some of it would be similar, but the details are all Canadian. So the reason I took this course was because as I go through life, I realized nobody likes to think about dying. Nobody likes to plan. And quite frankly, statistically speaking, the majority of people either die without a will, or if they have a will, it's not updated, or they haven't left a detailed plan for the executor. The person who they've appointed as the executor, the majority of times, has never done it before. It's like a friend or a family member or one of the children. So I took this course because I realized it's a huge coaching opportunity. And I don't want to be their executor. But what I want to do is help as many people as I can prepare a plan for their executor. So the executor knows step one, two, three, four. Here's the forms. Here's what you got to do. So that there's a book created that has all of the information and it's stored in a safe place. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but people don't want to do it. And so I took this certification course to work with people. It's like a specialized area of coaching to help them prepare. But you know the reason I took the course? That's not why I took the course. I took the course for me because I'm unprepared. I'm the same as everybody else. I'm as guilty. Anything I talk about that you need to do this, you need to do that. The only reason I know that is because I'm as guilty as sin. And I haven't done it. And so to help my daughter and my sons and my wife and my grandkids with my issues and what I've done with my life, I started to, organize. And then I came across this course and I took it. So the number one client is me. But sooner than later, I'll have other clients that want me to help them.
It is something that you have to do intentionally. Me and my husband did it. We were handed down pretty unorganized. Our parents didn't know about it, they didn't plan it. So both me and my husband had to work through a lot of stuff. And some of it was, honestly, it was really difficult to understand because they had not taken care of it. Had they put a structure to it, it would have been much easier.
Right.
And so many legal issues came in play because they had not put a structure to it. So that experience was a learning for us. And both of us, we were very clear that we are going to leave a clean slate for our child. We just have one son, but we intentionally worked on creating our estate plan. But here we work with lawyers as well. Of course, we worked with the person who manages our investments, and he directed us to an estate planning lawyer that drafted everything for us, and then we put it together. This will be a great, I think, service to people who don't know where to begin.
Well,
And
not only that, but when I took the course, the people that wrote the course in Canada did such a great job. They actually have one part of the course where they have every single form that has to be filled and submitted. I'm talking, there's all kinds of forms. I was drawn to this because on the other side of my work, where I'm selling properties over the years and helping people with investments, a lot of people probably shouldn't have sold their property. They shouldn't have sold their investment property. They shouldn't have incurred the tax, but they had no plan. Plus, over the years, when you sell property, if the person is deceased, you can't complete the sale without the will being probated. And so, if the people aren't sure what to do and how to do it, I've been facing these problems. And then when this course came along and I saw it, I thought, I need to get that.
yeah, it sounds amazing. And I think it will really help a lot of people who really don't know, who don't understand where to begin, what to do, what to tell the lawyer. And I always believe that there are great people out there to help us, but we should also know our stuff. We need to know if the person who's guiding us is guiding us correctly. If we don't understand it, we'll never know.
In Canada, I think it's the same in other countries. They say the only thing in life that we know for sure is death and taxes. And what's really funny is those are the only two things that are guaranteed, death and taxes. And those are the two things that most people are unprepared for.
True. Well, thank you for sharing. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from that.
I'm an investor. I've always been investing, but my biggest investment's in myself. See, when I cross the border, Jim Rohn used to say, when you cross the border, they never say to you, well, they say how much money you're carrying, but they never say how much is in your head. They never say, hey, Ray, all the stuff that's in your head, what's that worth? They never ask that question. So I can cross the border with very little, but when I get there, I can recreate because of what I've done to help transform myself.
Yeah. So I know that you're navigating a health crisis. You're also at the same time, this year is supposed to be a great year for your own, for the business expansion as well. So what's next for you? Is there something that, have you set a certain goal other than expanding?
Well, that's a question that normally I would have a certain answer for. Normally. Except this is 2025, and there's very few things that are normal anymore. So I am, and a lot of people may think everything's going to continue as it is, but we're living in a situation now in the world, in our country, in North America, around the world, where everything that we knew as normal is there's going to be some shifts, there's going to be some changes. So I can't answer that question the way I would have several years ago. So today, what I'm looking at is because of decisions that are made by political leaders, governments, it's affected right down to the everyday person. We have, in our country, I don't know about your country, but every day the homeless population grows. Every day the food bank doesn't have enough food. Every day inflation is so high and growing that people's money buy less. So it's not a little bit. It's not something that I think we can easily bounce back from. So what I'm working on now is I'm working on a number of different strategies, not only to help myself, but to help other people weather the storm. There's a storm coming. There's a financial storm coming up on the world, coming up on us, coming up on our neighbors. And so I've been working on a number of things, and you and I have talked a little bit about this. We can talk about it later. But I'm working on a number of things to help people weather that storm, because if they don't weather the storm, the three things in life that we have to be always on, the three main things in life. Number one, our relationships. Every relationship has a storm. If there's a divorce or there's a breakup of a family, that's a storm. It causes problems. So we have to work on that. Our health is an issue. If we don't work on our health and make it a priority, we will face storms that will take us out. But the number three thing, there's three things in life, no matter, if you wrote down 100 goals, I can tell you what they are. If you wrote 100 goals down, I can tell you what they are. Number one, a whole bunch of them are relationships. Number two, a whole bunch of them are health. And number three, a whole bunch of them are financial. So I'm not a health expert, but I have to be an expert for myself. I'm not a relationship expert, but I'm an expert enough to help some people and to work with my family. But I don't put myself out there as a shingle that I'm a relationship coaching expert. My coaching is business. When I get into coaching and it turns into family type coaching, I quickly refer them to experts. It's not what I do. Do I have an opinion? Of course. But it's not what I do. It's not my shtick, right? But finances has always been my stick. Business has always been my stick. So in those areas I gravitate and I'm interested, and I will read and I will study and I'll get as many facts as I can, because at the end of the day, I feel like when I stand before the Lord in my family, I have to answer for certain things. And I've got to give the direction. I've always known I got to give the direction for the finances. So those three things I work on.
All right. Now, how do you look back at it all? Your whole journey from the day you started to now?
I look back and I'm thankful for my parents, my grandparents. My granddad didn't even know. I don't think he even knew that he affected me. My mom probably knew. My dad had no idea, I don't think. But my mom affected me a lot. Because we're affected by people and what they say and what they do and the example they put before us, right? And when you're young and impressionable, you're affected. And the older people, they're not even aware that they're affecting you, but they did affect me. So everything in life affects you. The fact that my mom took me to London, made me go to school there, affected me in a positive way. The fact that she brought me to Canada affected me. I've loved living in Canada. I've been affected in so many ways and I built everything that I built in Canada. So people say, well, Ray, there was better places. There might have been, but I wasn't there. You might say, well, Ray, you should have come to the US. I didn't come to Canada. My parents brought me. I finished high school, went to college. You see what I'm saying? So I've learned over the years to make the best of what I have.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you have done anything differently?
Yeah, I would have listened to my wife more. My wife is very smart and she's astute. She is stronger in relationships with family members and everybody, and she's more attuned to things sometimes. So I probably should listen to her more.
All right. My last question. What advice would you have for somebody who is probably navigating a challenge right now, some kind of a business?
What I would say to people is don't ever hesitate to go for it. You only have one life. Do you want to have regrets? Do you want to be elderly and think, man, I should have tried that. I should have gone for it. So it's better to try and fail and learn than never to try and wonder, would I have been okay? Would I have succeeded?
Oh, wow. That is so amazing. Well,
Go for it. Because if you go for it, it seems like unknown forces, spiritual forces, maybe the Lord Himself, will bring you what you need. You will meet the right people. Doors will open. And when doors open, sometimes doors open, you go, I don't think a man could have opened that door. It must have been supernatural. Sometimes when you go for it, doors will close and you go, wow. There's an ancient scripture that says, if the Lord opens the door, no man can close it.
yeah,
If the Lord closes the door, no man can open it. So now you're not just in partnership with men, you're in partnership with the Lord. That's unbelievable. The inspiration that comes from that is like, how do you stop it?
great. Yeah. The last bit, you really brought it up to a real high with that ending. So, yeah, but this, I really loved our conversation. So many learnings, and I'm just soaking it all in, everything that you've said, and thinking about it and how I can imbibe those in my own journey. So, thank you so much, Ray. Thank you for your time. And this has been a great conversation, and I'm sure our listeners are going to get a lot out of it. If you found our content valuable, please like, share, and subscribe and spread the word. I think the best compliment is being referred. That one action of yours can help us reach more and more people and fulfill the mission of thriving changes. Thank you for considering.